May 14th, 2011. It's 12:47 a.m. at Casino Filipino, Manila. A high-limit baccarat table is surrounded by players, chips stacked high, and dealers dealing fast. But three men sit quietly, their bets steady, their execution flawless. Hand after hand, the piles in front of them grow. The house is bleeding, and nobody on the floor knows why. Upstairs in surveillance, the unease builds. The pattern isn't natural. The pauses between bets, the rhythm of the streaks, it feels rehearsed. The pit bosses can sense it, but suspicion isn't proof. Then, just after midnight, everything changes. One of the players makes the cut, and for a split second, a flash of metal slips from his sleeve. The cameras zoom in. What they see isn't luck. It's a device. Security moves instantly. The table is surrounded, jackets stripped, hotel rooms raided. Within hours, one of the most sophisticated casino scams in history begins to unravel. The men are part of the Cutter Gang, a syndicate that has already drained millions from casinos in Macau, Singapore, and Las Vegas. Their weapon, a hidden camera, a perfect system, and a strategy so clean it left the world's most secure casinos wide open. But how did they pull it off? And how could a single mistake bring an empire crashing down? This is the true story of one of the most advanced, elusive, and daring casino scams the world has ever seen. September 2008, Singapore. By day, Lu Chun Bang looked like the picture of legitimacy. A trained lawyer, a businessman with ties in real estate, a racehorse owner who moved comfortably in elite circles. He even carried the aura of discipline, a judo champion, respected in sporting circles for his calm and precision. But underneath that veneer was something else. In Singapore's gambling underworld, he had another reputation. A man who could talk his way into any room. A man who never flinched when the stakes rose. And above all, a man who knew opportunity when he saw it. Lu was not a reckless gambler himself. He was a strategist. He understood the math behind casino games, the human psychology on the floor, and the fact that the house didn't need to win every time. It only needed to win more often than the players. To beat that, you needed an edge, and to keep it, you needed a team. That's where the syndicate came in. By 2008, whispers were spreading across Macau and Manila about a network of professional cheats. They weren't lone hustlers or desperate high rollers trying to pull off quick tricks. They were organized, disciplined, and ambitious enough to believe they could take on entire casino empires. Lu saw his chance. With his legal background and polished image, he could move in circles where others couldn't. With his underground ties, he could recruit and manage people willing to take risks on the floor. He became a natural fit for the group, and soon after, one of its leaders. Their first weapon was familiar in the world of casino cheating, the false shuffle scam. It required a crooked dealer, someone willing to go through the motions of a shuffle but secretly leave a block of cards, known as a slug, in the same order. That slug might contain 30 or more cards, enough that, if you could memorize or record it, you'd know the outcomes of multiple baccarat hands before they were even dealt. The Cutter Gang, as they would later be called, refined this method across Asia. Players would record the slug with miniature cameras hidden on their bodies. The footage would be passed to an off-site analyst who broke down the sequence and sent betting instructions back to the table. With each run, the profits climbed. But there were limits. Finding corrupt dealers outside their own backyard was risky. Every new contact was a potential leak. Even when it worked, a 30-card slug only carried you so far. And by 2009, casinos were upgrading their surveillance, catching on to the telltale signs of false shuffles and hidden recorders. For Lu, this was both a warning and an opportunity. If the syndicate was to grow, if they were ever to take on the high-limit rooms of Macau, the packed floors of Las Vegas, or the tightly policed casinos of Singapore, they needed something bigger, something scalable, something that didn't depend on a dishonest dealer. That's when attention turned to one of baccarat's most extraordinary moments, a ritual every player had seen 1,000 times but never thought twice about: the cut. In baccarat, after the dealer shuffles, a plastic card is slid into the deck. Everything above that marker is lifted, moved to the bottom, and the shoe is set. Sometimes the dealer makes the cut. Other times, the player is invited to do it. To most, it was just a formality, a ritual of fairness before the cards were dealt. But to the cutter gang, it looked like a weakness. The idea was bold. What if they could capture the order of the shoe right then at the cut without the dealer ever noticing? Not a glimpse of 30 cards in a slug, but 100, maybe 160, enough to know the flow of the game for dozens of hands. It wasn't theory for long. The gang invested in custom-built micro cameras, sharper and smaller than anything they'd used before. Each one was hidden in the cuff of a tailored jacket, with the lens angled just right. When the cutter riffled the deck for luck, his fingertip would nudge the corners while the hidden lens recorded every card he touched. But seeing the cards was only half the battle. They needed speed. Within minutes, the tiny camera was removed and rushed out of the pit by a runner, a young member of the crew who blended into the crowd. The device was delivered to an off-site room, sometimes in a hotel, sometimes in a van parked nearby. There, an analyst fed the footage into specialized software. The program decoded the sequence into a clean list, every card in order, ready to be played. Back inside the casino, the team stalled the game. They called for drinks. They debated over small side bets, anything to buy the analyst time. And then, when the strategy came back, through coded hand signals, discreet phone buzzes, or whispered phrases, the real play began. For the first time, the cutter gang had what they had been chasing all along, a method that didn't rely on corrupt dealers, didn't leave obvious slugs, and could stretch across continents. A system clean enough to pass for luck, but powerful enough to bleed a casino for millions. And their first real test would come in Macau, the gambling capital of the world. It's December 2010, Macau. Billions move through its casinos every year, most of it across baccarat tables. Surveillance is everywhere. Ceiling domes, pit bosses circling, entire teams stationed in back rooms watching the feeds. It is the last place anyone should try a new scam, which is why the cutter gang chose it. The test was simple in concept, but risky in execution. A player would sit at a high-limit table, accept the offer to cut the shoe, and perform the maneuver exactly as they had rehearsed. The cuff camera had to be angled perfectly. Too obvious, and the pit boss would see. Too subtle, and the lens wouldn't capture the sequence. There would only be one chance before the shuffle began again. The first run was tense. The cutter riffled the corners, paused just long enough to make it look natural, and handed the shoe back. Then, he excused himself. A bathroom break. Within minutes, the device was in the analyst's hands, the footage decoded into a clean order of cards. Back at the table, the team stalled. They debated over bets, sipped drinks, and pretended to argue about strategy. The goal was to buy 20 minutes. When the signal came back, the instructions were precise: when to sit out, when to push, when to go all in. The results were immediate. Hands that looked like chance became guaranteed wins. The banker edges, the player streaks, even the ties, all predicted in advance. Within an hour, their bankroll had multiplied. But the bigger test wasn't whether the system worked, it was whether they could stay invisible. Surveillance teams noted the group's low reactions to big wins, the brief pauses in the game, the way one player seemed to vanish right after the cut. But with no evidence of cheating, nothing stuck. The crew cashed out, walked out, and disappeared into the city. By the time they regrouped, the profits were in the six figures. The system now is functional and scalable. For the cutter gang, Macau confirmed what they already suspected. They had built a method they could take anywhere. Asia was theirs for the taking, but the real prize lay across the Pacific, in the glittering lights of Las Vegas. January 2011. Las Vegas is packed. The Strip is glowing brighter than usual, celebrating Chinese New Year. Hotels are sold out. tables are crowded, and at the center of it all is the newly opened Cosmopolitan, a $4 billion property boasting the latest in casino security. This is where the Cutter Gang are willing to make their move. They know the risks. Nevada has some of the toughest gaming laws in the world. The casinos share intelligence. The state's Gaming Control Board has officers on call inside the properties, and surveillance teams are trained to spot anything unusual on the baccarat floor. But to the syndicate, the timing is perfect. A packed casino means noise, distraction, and cover. A cutter takes his seat at a high-limit table. The ritual begins. Shuffle, offer the cut. He slides the plastic card into the shoe, riffles the deck casually, and hands it back. The cuff camera does its work. A runner peels away, phone in hand, carrying the hidden recording out of the casino. At the table, the players slow the game. They debate bets, they order drinks. They play small hands, nothing aggressive. 20 minutes later, the signals arrive. Coded buzzes, small gestures. The sequence is ready. Now the betting changes. The player leans in, the bets grow larger, and the streak begins. Banker, banker, player, tie. Each call lands. Within an hour, the team is up over $50,000. But in Las Vegas, surveillance isn't just about catching cheats, it's about catching patterns. Upstairs in the Cosmopolitan's control room, pit bosses are watching closely. They notice the timing, a pause after the cut, a missing player, then a sudden streak of wins. It looks strange, but it isn't yet proof. The team should leave. Their own rules say walk away after a big win, but the energy of the strip, the packed floor, and the thrill of success keep them at the table. 50,000 becomes 70. The pit boss circles tighter. The control room replays the footage. The calls don't look random anymore. They look rehearsed. A call goes out. Agents from the Nevada Gaming Control Board are dispatched to the floor. Mid-shoe, mid-streak, the players are pulled aside. Security searches them, combs through their belongings. They find nothing. The cuff camera, already removed, is gone. Without physical evidence, the law is clear. No charges. The team walks out with $75,000 in profit. A warning shot, but not a conviction. For the Cutter Gang, it's a victory. They've beaten not just the casino, but the most advanced surveillance system in Las Vegas. And yet, in choosing to stay too long, they've made their first mistake. They've shown their rhythm. A rhythm the casinos will remember. May 2011, Manila, Philippines. Casino Filipino, a government-run casino network, its airport branch buzzing with tourists, locals, and high rollers. The baccarat pits are crowded, the air thick with cigarette smoke and the clatter of chips. Among the players, 3 men stand out, not because of their behavior, but because of their results. They've been at the high-limit table for hours, and the pattern is familiar. Calm bets, long pauses, then streak after streak of perfectly timed wins. The pile of chips in front of them grows higher, while the pit bosses grow restless. Upstairs, the surveillance room is already on alert. The operators don't know how the players are doing it, but they've seen something like this before. The rhythm of the game isn't natural. It feels rehearsed. But suspicion alone isn't enough. In this business, you need proof. Then, just after midnight, it happens. On one of the surveillance monitors, a pit manager spots something he shouldn't be seeing. During the cut, a glint of metal slips from a player's sleeve. It's quick, barely a flicker, but enough to catch the camera's eye. The image is rewound, zoomed, and confirmed. It isn't a gesture. It isn't chance. It's a device. The call goes out. Security surrounds the table. The players are pulled aside. Their jackets are searched, their rooms raided. Analysts are tracked down in nearby hotels. Runners intercepted before they can disappear. The entire Manila operation collapses in a single night. By dawn, the scale of the scam is clear. Casino officials confirm losses of more than 160 million Filipino pesos, over $4 million US, siphoned through the same method the syndicate used in Macau and Las Vegas. And this time, they don't just have suspicions, they have the hardware. The spatula-like hidden camera pulled straight from the cutter's sleeve. The arrests ripple through the industry. For the first time, regulators have proof on how the Cutter gang works. Investigators believe the network involves as many as 70 operatives spread across Asia, rotating through casinos, each one trained in the system. At the center of it all, one name stands out: Lu Chun-bang, businessman, lawyer, judo champion, and now accused ringleader of one of the most sophisticated casino scams ever uncovered. But even with charges filed, the story doesn't end in Manila, because the syndicate still has money, connections, and influence. And Lu himself isn't done yet. Within days, several of the arrested men were released on bail. Some vanished immediately, slipping out of the Philippines before new warrants could be filed. At the center of it all was Lu Chun-bang. He was charged with conspiracy to defraud 3 Manila casinos, but when authorities came looking for him again, he was gone. Weeks passed. Then, in August 2011, headlines appeared across Asia. Reports claimed that Lu had been found dead in a Guangzhou hotel room. The official verdict was natural causes: stress, exhaustion, perhaps a heart attack. For regulators, it was a convenient ending. The syndicate's leader silenced, the case wrapped up. But for those who knew the underground world of gambling, the story didn't add up. Lu was only in his mid-50s. He was a seasoned fighter, a man who had competed on judo mats and thrived in high-pressure deals. To them, the idea that he had simply collapsed in a hotel room felt too neat, too easy. Rumors spread quickly. Some said he had been eliminated by his own partners, silenced before he could talk to investigators. Others believed the death was staged entirely, that Lu had bought himself a new identity and was living comfortably in another country on syndicate profits. Months later, reports even surfaced claiming he had resurfaced, adding fuel to the conspiracy. Meanwhile, investigators in Manila realized the larger truth. The arrests had done little to stop the network. The hidden analysts decoding card sequences, the runners moving devices across borders, the financiers laundering millions, none of them had been touched. This was the infrastructure, and removing one man, even its supposed leader, didn't collapse it. In response, casinos began changing the way they operated. Shuffle protocols were tightened. Dealers were instructed to vary their motions, and players were no longer given the same freedom with the cut. Some casinos switched to continuous shuffling machines, making it harder for anyone to predict the order of the cards. Surveillance technology also evolved. Casinos invested in RF and infrared scanners capable of detecting hidden devices, even those buried in clothing. Security teams were trained to flag slow play, the subtle stalling tactics the Cutter gang had relied on to buy time for their analysts. And, perhaps most importantly, properties across Asia and the United States began sharing information more openly. Faces, names, and suspicious patterns that might once have gone unnoticed were now distributed across entire regions. Publicly, regulators called the Manila case an isolated incident. But privately, executives admitted the truth. The Cutter gang's system had worked for years, across multiple continents. Losses were estimated in the tens of millions, and no one could say with certainty how many crews were still out there, copying the method. As for Lu Chun-bang, the man accused of leading it all, his fate remained clouded. And that's the legacy the Cutter gang left behind. Casinos became harder, smarter, and more watchful, but baccarat never changed. The cut is still part of the game. And the question remains, if that flaw still exists, who will be the next to exploit it?